Hello there, and welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm working on a card video for you, so get comfy and let's get crafty. So I have purchased a few things from Altenew's most recent release, and the one I'm going to be working with today is the Winter Crocus. So this particular image has a stamp set, a coordinating die set, and the coordinating stencils. So I am going to be using all three of those. I have selected some blue or purple rather inks, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green. I have my ink blending brushes and my Misty stamp positioner. I am going to be using a piece of Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in 80-pound weight. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp it first. And I'm going to make sure that that cardstock is really snug down in the left-hand corner of my stamp positioner so that when I'm done ink blending, I can go ahead and stamp over it again just to make sure that it has a nice clean outline. So I don't know if it's been a year and a half, 2 years, I don't remember when it all started, but this stencil way of coloring stamped images is so cool. I am still super enthralled with this whole stencil idea. It is just, sometimes you don't want to sit down and spend a lot of time coloring. Sometimes you do, and these stencils make it just absolutely perfect. And really, you wouldn't even need the stamp set if you had the stencils. You could just stencil them, ink blend them in the right order, and they would be perfect. Okay, so I've gone ahead and stamped this, and I've got my desk prepared. I'm working on the Tonic Studios ink blending mat, and this stencil set has 3 stencils, and they're numbered up in the top, 1, 2, 3, and each stencil has a different part of the flower on it, which I think is super great. That means we don't have to have 6 or 7 stencils in the kit or in the set. So I'm going to go ahead and tape my cardstock down to my Tonic ink blending mat so that it doesn't shift and move. There's a lot of things you could do. You could leave it in your Misty. You could use, I know that Waffle Flower has a stencil ink blending mat that has edges on 3 sides, but whatever. This is how I'm working it out today. I'm just going to go ahead and line up that stencil with my stamped image. Now, one thing I boo-booed on was I started down at the bottom because on a crocus, that color kind of fades from the purple into the green, and I wasn't thinking clearly, but it's not a big deal because when I do the green of the stems, it'll cover it right back up. So now I'm going on to the back side of these flowers with the same stencil, and I'm using the same color ink. I'm just putting it on just a tad heavier. And then the second stencil has the back of the second flower and that little bud on the bottom left that hasn't bloomed yet. I'm just kind of making sure I line up the stencil cutouts with the stamped image. And it's not difficult. I mean, when you need or are in the mood for quick crafting or a quick card, these coordinating stencils and stamp sets are awesome. Okay, so this stencil also has the little interiors of the flowers, and I am going with yellow. I don't know if crocuses are really yellow in the middle, but I don't care because purple and yellow are my favorite combination of opposite colors. This stencil also has the very dark low lights of these purple flowers as well, the purple parts of the crocus. I did pull out a light and a medium and a dark of the purple, and you can do that, or you can just add darker. You can add more ink to make them darker. You don't have to have 3 different colors. Okay, so now we're going with the stems, and I tried to put the green color a little bit heavy on the parts that I thought would be in shadow, and then I realized the next stencil did that for me. So, the first time you use a stencil set, it's always a little bit of a learning curve. Like, I'm looking at the packaging in between each stencil, and I think I know what I'm doing. Like, you can see right here, I'm trying to add a darker color to the undersides and the parts I think are going to be darkest. And then I realized those little lines in the top of that stencil you can see, yeah, that's the low light of the leaves. But it's okay. It works out just fine. I think that these stencils actually turned out perfectly. And I think for a minute I thought that those lines were more on the flower blooms, but they're actually for the leaves down there. They kind of darken in the shadow parts of the leaves. So perfect. And it turned out so pretty. I did forget to zoom out here, so I've kind of sped through this part. I'm going to go ahead and overstamp that with my Versaclear Nocturne Black ink. It is a little bit darker than the Simon Says Intense Black that I used originally, but to be fair, I only stamped it one time and I didn't really worry too much about making sure that it was perfect because I knew I was going to go back and overstamp it. And this stamp is a very fine line. It's not a real thick outline, so I don't think it would matter which ink you stamped it in. It's still going to have a very thin, mild line. Okay, so now that I have my focal image done, I've pulled out a purple cardstock for the card base, some stripes, some shiny silver, and some die sets to work on. And the thing I want to do is take this purple striped cardstock, and I want to cut it down with the the purple stripe I'm going to cut down just regular. But I want to make a frame out of that iridescent silver shiny cardstock with the wonky stitch rectangles from MFT, but I want to cut out the inside so that this flower is kind of poking through the frame with the stitching on the outside, if that makes sense at all. I'm also going to use my waffle flower dies to trim down this striped paper. Yes, I could do that with my paper trimmer, but I already have the dies out. So this is kind of what I'm going through for. All of my die cutting is done, and I want those flowers to kind of pop in and out of the frame. Like one leaf is behind, one bloom is slightly behind. I did decide I wanted to add a little bit of shimmer to it. You have to be very careful when you're adding any kind of Wink of Stella or tonic glitter pen, because I use dye ink to blend this out, and so it's going to reactivate and smear if I'm not careful. So I decided I did not love that purple card base, and I went for yellow. I think I had too many different colors of purple, and it was just not super pleasing to my eye. But again, because yellow and purple are complementary colors, this yellow is going to be perfect. So I have scored this piece of cardstock. It is 11 inches by 4¼ inches, and I've scored it at 5½. That does create an A2 size card, a top folding portrait style card. And I will just use my ATG gun to, first of all, adhere my stripes down. And I turn my card base sideways so that I can see 3 sides and mostly get it centered. Now, we have already talked about the fact that I don't measure. I eyeball. And looking at it right now, I can see that one side's a little bit more than the other. Yeah, don't care. It's handmade. It's not supposed to be computer generated and perfect. So now that I have my frame all situated on my card, I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my Glad Press and Seal. And then I'm going to use my 3M foam tape roll, that huge roll of foam tape that I just started my new roll on, and put foam tape all over the back of this. I'm putting foam tape on the back of the flowers, foam tape on the back of the frame, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull off all the release paper. This is like speed, like 8 times normal speed. And I am going to go ahead and use the cling wrap to recenter that image how I want it on my card. And then once it has stuck down, wow, that was not English. Once it has stuck down, I can remove the cling wrap. I am going to add just a little bit more sparkle and shimmer to the flower, because flowers could have sparkles. I am going to use this Mint Owl Studios stamp set. This is one of my golden oldie favorites. And I'm going to use the Happy Birthday stamp and this piece of scrap white cardstock. Now, this is a stamp that I have in the past done stamp surgery on and cut it in half. But you can see there, even though I'm totally off screen, that it lines up just perfectly in my MISTI, so I don't have to worry about any of that. So I've gone ahead and stamped that with the Versaclear ink, and I'm just being very gentle with my fingers. I intend to lay it right across the bottom of the flowers there, but I decided to bring that yellow back in just to kind of finish off that sentiment strip. So my card is very clearly following the gallon pint quart, there we go, gallon pint quart scenario where I have lots of purple, a little bit of yellow, and a tiny bit of green. And I love it. I love how it turned out. The stencils made coloring that image a breeze. And this video is like 10 minutes, 11 minutes long. I think my raw footage was only 25 minutes. And that includes all of the stuff that I cut out, right? So easy peasy way to create a card. I hope you enjoyed it. This is a fabulous set from Altenew. I'm going to use it a ton, I know. I just think it makes beautiful focal points for cards. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I have added a couple of other videos for you to watch here, as well as a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and I hope you have a really fabulous day.